These are 8 airport secrets that security systems, airlines, and staff are designed to hide from you. Not because they're illegal, but because once you understand them, you become harder to predict. Airports run on patterns, and the entire system exists to identify passengers who fit the expected mold while separating those who don't. Every step you take feeds into an evaluation you can't see, and were never meant to understand. Today we're covering exactly what those hidden systems watch for, how decisions get made about you before you reach a single checkpoint, and what you can do to move through without triggering unnecessary attention. This isn't about paranoia, it's about awareness, so let's get into it. Number 1. Your clothing gets analyzed before you say a word. Your airport outfit isn't just about comfort or personal style, because to security systems, what you're wearing is data. Body scanners don't see fabric, they see shapes, densities, and shadows, and certain clothing choices create immediate visibility problems. When the scanner can't get a clear read, the system does something most passengers never realize. It requests human attention, and that's when the so-called random pat-down appears. Loose layers, oversized jackets, heavy coats, raised hoods, and excessive covering all create irregular density patterns that make your body contours difficult to read. But here's the thing. Problematic clothing goes beyond loose fits. Metal threads woven into athletic shoes trigger alerts. Reinforced undergarments create signals that require explanation, and thick belts along with decorative metal chains cost you time even when everything you're wearing is completely legal. What most travelers never consider is that dressing in a way that breaks expectations also draws attention. Wearing formal business attire on a short budget flight or packing warm weather clothes while heading to a cold destination, these inconsistencies stand out because they break the pattern security systems expect to see, and breaking patterns invite scrutiny. The practical approach comes down to this: neutral colors, fitted but not tight silhouettes, and minimal metal. Boring works. At the airport, the less memorable you appear, the smoother your experience becomes. Number 2. Your checked bag enters a surveillance system the moment you let go. Most passengers feel relief when they hand over their checked luggage, watching it disappear behind the counter and assuming it simply travels along a conveyor until it reaches the plane. That assumption misses what actually happens. From the moment your bag gets tagged, it becomes a tracked object moving through scanners, conveyors, and multiple decision points hidden behind airport walls, with every scan logged and every stop recorded. And here's where it gets interesting. Your baggage data can be compared against your passenger profile, your travel history, your route, whether you're flying alone, where you're coming from, and where you're heading all factor into how your bag gets handled. An unusually heavy suitcase for a short trip, or one that's strangely light for your destination, can trigger diversion for extra screening without any notification. No announcement comes, no request for consent, nothing. While you're sitting at the gate thinking everything is fine, your suitcase may have already been opened, rescanned, or flagged for additional inspection. Your luggage faces far more monitoring than you've been led to believe, and understanding this changes how you should think about what you pack and how you pack it. Number 3. Body scanners see far more than a simple outline. When you step into an airport body scanner and raise your arms, the assumption that security agents view only a vague, anonymous silhouette turns out to be wrong. Modern scanners detect far more than metal objects, reading density changes, unusual shapes, and inconsistencies in how clothing sits on your body. Liquids, paper, layered fabric, and oddly placed patches can all trigger alerts even when nothing illegal is present. What the system does next is key. It doesn't identify what it detects, it simply flags that something doesn't match the expected pattern. And that's when human review begins. Operators can request closer inspection when irregularities appear. But here's the thing, security personnel are also trained to observe your behavior alongside the scanner results. How you walk through the checkpoint matters, as does how you hold your belongings, whether you avoid eye contact, and how tense or relaxed your movements appear. All of this gets evaluated while you move through the line. Security screening isn't a single event, it's a layered process combining technology and human observation. Which means, by the time you believe you're being randomly selected for additional screening, multiple signals may have already aligned. What you carry matters, but how you carry yourself matters just as much. Number 4. Random selection is rarely random. Nearly every traveler has heard the phrase at some point, "You were randomly selected," which sounds neutral and fair, but in many cases isn't entirely accurate. Behind that phrase are algorithms and preset criteria, scanning tickets and passenger information before anyone reaches a security checkpoint. Last-minute bookings raise flags, one-way tickets raise flags, and unusual connection patterns, paying in cash, or routes considered sensitive, all create silent triggers in the system. None of these things are illegal or obviously problematic, but they're enough to move you out of the standard processing flow. Behavior factors in as well, with security staff trained to notice excessive nervousness, eye contact avoidance, visible sweating without clear cause, and tense body language. Even the way you grip your bag or hesitate in line can work against you. And here's where it gets surprising, because some triggers go completely unnoticed by most travelers. Flying frequently without checked luggage, traveling alone with unusual regularity, having a name similar to someone on a watch list, or even maintaining a minimal digital footprint can all generate questions in certain systems. Calling these checks random serves a strategic purpose, since that label prevents arguments, avoids complaints, and sidesteps profiling accusations. But the reality is that something about your ticket, your route, your history, or your behavior likely triggered the selection. Getting pulled aside with no clear explanation probably wasn't bad luck. It was a quiet decision made before you reached the checkpoint. Number 5. Your checked luggage can be opened. Without your knowledge or permission, most travelers assume a checked suitcase stays sealed throughout its journey unless something serious happens, but that assumption is incorrect. In many countries, including the United States, airport security, authorities hold the legal right to open your checked luggage without notifying you or requesting permission, and locked bags don't prevent this. TSA-approved locks can be opened and relocked without damage, while non-approved locks get cut off entirely with no explanation or compensation provided. Sometimes the reason is straightforward: a bottle packed incorrectly, electronics stacked in a way that obscures the X-ray image, or an object creating an unusual shadow. But often the triggers are far less dramatic, with dense packing creating problems, items wrapped in opaque materials causing issues, and aluminum foil or plastic wrapping around your suitcase making scans harder to interpret. Certain luggage profiles attract more attention than others, so extremely compact bags, unusually heavy cases, and bags that appear oversecured can move higher on the inspection priority list. What surprises most passengers is that notification never comes. No note, no warning, no message. Waiting at baggage claim, your suitcase can be inspected and sent on its way without any indication it happened. Reducing this risk means packing in an organized manner, avoiding unnecessary wrapping, keeping electronics visible and accessible, and never placing valuables in checked luggage. Your bag isn't as private as you might expect. Number 6. Airport staff can see exactly what you paid for your ticket. When your boarding pass gets scanned, you might assume the system only displays basic information like your name, seat assignment, and destination, but that's not the complete picture. In many airline systems, staff can see your fare type when they scan your boarding pass, whether you purchased on sale, paid full price, used frequent flyer miles, booked through a third-party discount site, or purchased a refundable fare. Officially, this information shouldn't affect treatment, but in practice it often does. Passengers who paid higher fares, booked flexible tickets, or purchased premium cabin seats get prioritized when upgrades, assistance, or last-minute accommodations become available, while travelers who purchased the cheapest tickets or booked through discount aggregators may find themselves at the bottom of the list when problems arise. During overbooked flights, this becomes particularly significant because when someone must be rebooked, delayed, or involuntarily bumped, the price paid becomes one of the invisible factors considered. Airlines rarely state this openly, but it's part of the internal calculation. Perception plays a role as well, since staff may unconsciously treat higher fare passengers as more experienced or valuable, while budget travelers receive less flexibility and fewer exceptions. And that's exactly why how you present yourself matters, because confidence and polite professionalism can sometimes carry more weight than the ticket price printed in the system. Acting like a priority passenger occasionally produces priority treatment, regardless of what you actually paid. Number 7. Thermal cameras can detect your stress levels. Most travelers believe airport cameras exist only to monitor crowds or identify obvious security threats, with some assuming thermal cameras were installed primarily for health screening in recent years. That's only part of the story. Thermal and advanced surveillance cameras can detect subtle temperature changes in the human body, and when someone experiences stress, anxiety, or nervousness, blood flow shifts, causing heat patterns around the face, neck, and forehead to change slightly. These variations are invisible to the human eye, but not to the system. Elevated thermal readings don't prove wrongdoing, but they can trigger attention. And if the system flags unusual thermal patterns, security staff may receive alerts to observe more closely. What follows can include additional questions, secondary screening, or quiet monitoring, all happening without you ever knowing why the attention began. Many travelers feel confused by additional screening, believing random selection explains everything when their own body may have reacted before they spoke a single word. Rushing through the terminal, breathing shallowly, fidgeting, or displaying visible tension can all work against you because the airport environment is designed to notice instability, even when it comes from completely harmless travel anxiety. Calm behavior isn't just about personal comfort, it's strategic. Slow, deliberate movements along with controlled breathing and relaxed posture reduce unwanted attention in an environment filled with sensors most passengers never notice. Number 8. Airlines maintain internal passenger lists. They never acknowledge. Most travelers assume that unless they appear on an official government no-fly list, their history with an airline disappears once a flight ends, but that assumption is misleading. Airlines and airports maintain internal systems that flag passengers who have caused disruptions, and these aren't public lists or criminal records. They're internal notes created after incidents that staff remember even when passengers have forgotten. Arguments with gate agents create entries, aggressive complaints leave traces, and refusing instructions or repeated confrontational behavior can result in digital flags that follow you across future flights. Dramatic incidents aren't necessary, since a pattern of difficult interactions is sometimes enough to trigger internal notes. Being on one of these lists doesn't necessarily mean travel denial, but it can change how you're handled. Closer observation becomes likely, courtesies and accommodations may disappear, and seating in locations where staff can monitor you more easily becomes common. Some passengers get asked to acknowledge behavioral expectations before boarding. The difficult part is that confirmation never comes. You'll never know if you're on one of these lists. Codes stay internal, language remains opaque, and passengers can't access the systems. From your perspective, you simply notice different treatment without understanding why. And that's exactly why experienced travelers choose calm over confrontation, even when they're clearly in the right. Behavior during a flight or at an airport can echo long after the trip ends, because in the airline system, reputation matters far more than most passengers realize. After examining these 8 realities, one principle becomes clear. The airport isn't a neutral environment where passengers move freely until they make an obvious mistake. What exists instead is a system that quietly evaluates every traveler based on factors most people never consider. What you wear, how you pack, how you act, what you paid, and how your body responds to stress all feed into invisible assessments running constantly in the background. What feels like bad luck at the airport often results from these hidden rules operating exactly as designed. This information isn't meant to create anxiety, it's meant to create awareness. Travelers who understand how the system works can move through it more effectively by dressing in ways that don't trigger scrutiny, packing in ways that reduce inspection probability, and remaining calm in ways that prevent their own biology from drawing attention. The strategy is simple. Blend in, stay predictable, and give the system no reason to slow you down. If this changed how you think about air travel, consider subscribing for more content revealing what airports and airlines prefer passengers not to know. Travel informed, travel prepared, and travel one step ahead.